Hello friends, welcome to Annie Update. How are you all? I hope you're doing well wherever you are. In this video, I will continue with Mob Psycho 100 Part 4. But before we begin, I recommend that you watch the previous parts first so you can fully understand the story. The video link is in the description below. Alright, without further ado, let's get started. In the previous episode, Ritsu had finally awakened his psychic powers. However, instead of using them wisely, he let his abilities get to his head and started acting recklessly, even using his powers to beat up middle school gangs. His older brother, Mob, witnessed this and immediately confronted Ritsu, asking what he had done. With no way to deny it, Ritsu confessed and admitted that he had gained psychic abilities. Meanwhile, Dimple, not wanting to get involved in a fight with Mob, quickly left the scene. Ritsu then revealed how hard he had struggled to obtain his powers. He also admitted that deep down he was actually afraid of Mob, because at any moment Mob could easily hurt him if he wanted to. Hearing this, Ritsu pretended to admire Mob so he wouldn't anger his older brother. Then, filled with anger, Ritsu challenged Mob to a fight. However, instead of accepting, Mob apologized to all the people Ritsu had beaten. Meanwhile, at Kenji's awakening lab, someone had completely destroyed the place. Not only that, the Esper children who were there had been kidnapped. Back with Mob and Ritsu, a mysterious man who had been watching them suddenly launched an attack on Ritsu. His name was Koyama. Before this, he had already taken down several delinquents in the area. After that, Koyama attempted to take Ritsu away. But Mob, seeing this unfold, refused to let him go. Filled with rage, Mob immediately attacked Koyama, demanding that he release Ritsu. Of course, Koyama refused. Left with no choice, Mob had to use his powers. A fierce battle broke out between them. At first, Mob only used a small fraction of his abilities. Because of this, he was easily beaten and knocked unconscious. But suddenly, the moment Ritsu was hurt, Mob woke up, his anger fully unleashed. Mob then mercilessly attacked Koyama, forcing him to realize just how powerful Mob truly was. At the same time, the middle school gangs watching the fight finally understood the truth. Mob was the real white poison. They noticed the plain white t-shirt Mob was wearing underneath his school uniform. Despite being badly beaten, Koyama refused to give up. He attempted another attack on Mob, but once again, his attacks were completely ineffective. With no other options, he resorted to a dirty trick. He sprayed something at Mob, instantly knocking him unconscious. But it only lasted for a brief moment. Out of nowhere, Mob suddenly woke up again. Seeing this, Koyama quickly grabbed Ritsu and fled the scene. Meanwhile, at Reigen's office, a middle-aged woman arrived as a client. She complained about having a heavy feeling in her shoulders. Hearing this, Reigen used one of his special techniques. He began giving her a relaxation massage. The woman was completely satisfied with the treatment. On the other side, Mob had just regained consciousness and found himself in Teruki's house. Teruki then explained that he knew who Koyama was, the man who had kidnapped Ritsu. Koyama was part of an organization called Claw, founded by extremely dangerous Espers. They frequently kidnapped psychic children, brainwashed them, and turned them into soldiers for their organization with the goal of taking over the world. Teruki himself had been followed by Claw for a long time. He warned Mob to stay away from them if he wanted to stay alive. But of course, Mob didn't care. His brother had been kidnapped. At the same time, Dimple informed Mob about Kenji's awakening lab, the place Ritsu often visited. Not long after, they went to check it out, only to find the entire place in ruins. They questioned Kenji about what had happened, but Kenji had no idea who had kidnapped Ritsu or who had destroyed his research lab. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Ritsu and the other Esper children were taken to Claw's Division 7 headquarters. There they were greeted by Terada, one of Division's executives. Terada had already heard about Mob, the middle schooler who had defeated Koyama. Back with Mob and Teruki, they started planning how to rescue Ritsu. Teruki offered to help Mob, but their biggest problem was that they had no leads. Then, unexpectedly, Terada suddenly appeared before them. But within moments, he and his men were effortlessly beaten by Teruki. After that, Mob and Teruki interrogated Terada about Claw and its operations. Meanwhile, at Division 7 headquarters, the executives were holding a meeting. They mocked Koyama for losing to a middle schooler. At the same time, Ritsu and the other Esper children were locked in a prison cell. Ritsu desperately pleaded for their release. claiming they had no real psychic abilities. But then, one of Division 7's top executives, Muto, entered the room. Instead of letting them go, he dragged Kaito into another room. Seeing this, Ritsu realized they were going to be brainwashed one by one. From a distance, they could hear Kaito screaming for help. Moments later, Kaito was brought back, but he was in a horrible condition. Muto then warned them all if they resisted, they would end up like Kaito. Not long after, Mob and Terada arrived at the facility, with Terada leading the way. But suddenly, Terada betrayed them. He used his air whip ability, launching a surprise attack on Teruki. Teruki struggled to keep up with the attack. Seeing this, Mob calmly used a fraction of his telekinetic power and easily defeated Terada. Meanwhile, Ritsu convinced his fellow captives to escape from their cell. Unexpectedly, Daichi eagerly agreed because, using telepathy, he had just spoken to his brother Kaito, who was still alive. This revelation gave them a glimmer of hope. After that, Ritsu asked Asahi and Takeshi to craft a key using a spoon he had been carrying. Surprisingly, they successfully unlocked the cell door. Unfortunately, the guards saw what they had done. But instead of panicking, Ritsu calmly walked out of the cell. Furious, the guards attacked him, but Ritsu effortlessly defeated them without even moving. Meanwhile, Mob and Teruki defeated 2 guards at the entrance. Dimple then possessed one of them as a disguise. Shortly after, they infiltrated the facility to find Ritsu. Unfortunately, their presence had already been detected by the control room monitors. Realizing this, the Division 7 executives gathered to stop Mob and Teruki. Meanwhile, Koyama was fired up, eager to take revenge on Mob. Moments later, he confronted Mob and Teruki, but Mob simply said, "I don't have time for this." And with a single move, Koyama was instantly knocked out cold. After that, the 3 of them split up to find Ritsu more quickly. Meanwhile, Ritsu and his friends had successfully found Kaito. They attempted to sneak him out of the facility. Unfortunately, the guards discovered their escape attempt. Luckily, an old man in the area let them go without stopping them. The old man said that their resistance was pointless because a very powerful Esper had infiltrated the facility. He also revealed that they were nothing more than rejects, whose abilities had never fully awakened in the first place. Elsewhere, Dimple was confronted by the organization's so-called experts, but it turned out they were nothing more than a bunch of weaklings, no match for Dimple at all. Shortly after, Dimple arrived at a laboratory. There, Esper children were being tortured in an attempt to awaken their powers. Moments later, one of the Division 7 executives, Matsuo, appeared before him. Meanwhile, Teruki had already defeated numerous low-level Espers. He was then informed that Ritsu and his friends had escaped from their cell. But just as he was about to continue his search, Teruki was suddenly attacked by an Esper with fire-based powers, Miyagawa. However, Miyagawa was no match for Teruki. In the end, Teruki counterattacked, leaving Miyagawa badly burned. But the trouble didn't end there. A swordsman named Yusuke suddenly appeared, alongside an illusionist named Muraki. They overwhelmed Teruki and successfully captured him. In another room, Mob was confronted by hundreds of moving wooden dolls. They were controlled by a young girl named Mukai. However, Mob easily destroyed them all within seconds. Frustrated, Mukai ran to complain to an older woman named Shioya. But when Shioya saw Mob, she was shocked. She hadn't expected White Poison to be just a middle school boy. Still, that didn't stop her from attacking Mob with all her might. Mob, however, refused to fight back. Instead, he dodged all her punches. In the middle of their battle, Mob explained that he didn't want to fight a woman, just as Reigen had taught him. He believed that doing so would make him a coward. But Shioya took it as an insult. She demanded that Mob fight her fairly. Meanwhile, Ritsu was confronted by another young Esper named Seo. At the same time, Dimple was struggling against Matsuo, who used evil spirits as his personal pets. Despite the overwhelming odds, Dimple refused to give up and tried to attack Matsuo. But suddenly, he collapsed right in front of him. It turned out to be a trick. Dimple had faked his fall to deceive Matsuo. Realizing he had been fooled, Matsuo became furious. He immediately commanded his 2 evil spirits to capture Dimple. But, unexpectedly, Dimple had only pretended to run away. Instead, he quickly returned to his physical form and attempted to attack Matsuo, who was now defenseless. However, Dimple's luck ran out. Matsuo still had another evil spirit that he hadn't yet unleashed. Elsewhere, Mob had already defeated Shioya. Shortly after, he finally found Ritsu, who was unconscious. Seeing his younger brother in such a state filled Mob with rage. At that moment, Muto arrived and attempted to capture both of them, but with just his raw anger, Mob defeated Muto instantly. Unfortunately, Mob collapsed immediately afterward, losing consciousness. Moments later, Sho appeared. It turned out that he had used Ritsu as bait to lure Mob into a trap. In the end, Ritsu, Mob, and Teruki were captured. Dimple was also caught, sealed inside a jar, along with Matsuo's evil spirits. Alright friends, that's the end of this episode of Mob Psycho 100 Part 4. We'll continue the next part in the following video. If you don't want to miss the next story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That's all for today. See you in the next video.